your permission to save to record the video conference, the webinar. If everybody allows, is okay. So we will start now this first webinar from the project GEMSTONE. So we would like to thank you all for your presence, in special to Professor Manuel Laranja to be the first speaker of our webinars. GEMSTONE is a project that involves different clusters from different countries in Europe. We have partners, clusters from France. The coordinator is Sims. We have also partners from Belgium, Poland, Portugal, Italy, and Latvia. So it's a very large community, special and industrial community. We have been working together in this project. This is a very innovative project because now we see Laura, and it's a really an innovative project because we have been working on the green manufacturing roadmap has been discussed between these countries, and it's a good proposal for the next years of working and programs that we'll face in Europe, supporting the green transition. And also, this is a project important because we have this experience that has been launched by the European Commission as regards cascade funds, meaning that the companies can take advantage of the funds approved in this project to promote their activities on certain calls that will be open at the European level to help companies to go on this green transition. We expect to start launching the first calls in June, so we're almost there. And these webinars has the importance to sensibilize the companies and the members of the clusters to appeal and look at this opportunity. So Professor Manuel Laranja is a friend for a long time of ours. He is professor on the University of Economics in Lisbon, and he's graduated on the engineering by IST in Lisbon, and he has also MBA from the University of Warwick, and he's an expert in innovation policy. And for more than 10 years, he's supporting the Prime Minister of Portugal on the innovation policies and the public funds orientations. So I think we have the right person to start this webinar. He will talk about industrial innovation policies and the strategies, which is a very actual topic and is a very hot topic in this period when we are talking about reindustrialization and we are talking about green transition. So I don't want to take your time. Now I pass the word to Professor Manuel Laranja, and thank you very much for your support and your availability to give your experience to us and to promote this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rui. I am the one that has to thank for the invitation, and hello to you all. It's nice to see the industry here present. I think we share the same interests as Rui said, where we're all interested in see how industry is adapting and is evolving, and not just on innovation. And then my proposal here for today was to speak with you a little bit about the sustainability challenges for industry, because we were saying that the project, the GEMSTONE project, has an interest on the Green Deal and on transitioning industries to a new strategy, let's say over the long term, difficult transition for greening strategy, let's call it like that. So my proposal is to talk with you just a little bit about that. And I'm going to try and share my screen, if I may. Yes, I think now you can see it. And start the presentation. Yes, I think you can see it now. So I thought I could call it the name of this webinar, Sustainable Challenges on Industry Competitiveness. You have my contact here. I'm from the University of Lisbon, and I teach industrial strategy, innovation, entrepreneurship. And I've become really interested in let's say the past few years in including issues of sustainability, regenerative economy, to the changes that companies and industries have to do in the future. So the teaching now here at the university, it's more centered around things like how can we change industrial value chains, how can we look at innovation as a support tool for sustainability. That includes things like, for example, circular economy, systemic thinking, long-term transition processes, systemic processes, etc., etc. But now, beyond the academic thinking, these 3 points that I wanted to tell you, they're quite simple. It's just kind of a awareness kind of talk for you to be launching the conversation in a sense. So that, as I understood, I can just talk a little bit, and then we have a Q&A in the final, so that they can give me some feedback on these issues as well. So the first issue is about the challenges and the need for sustainability. That might not be actually anything new. I always come back to this figure, which was published by The Economist a few years ago, that we were starting the COVID crisis, and we were so overwhelmed by the health crisis that we began to forget the background of that is actually a larger wave, not just the recession wave that we're living now, but on the background, we also have a serious climate change problem. As you probably heard today, this week here in Portugal and in Spain, we are under a very serious heat wave, particularly in Spain, maybe not so much here in Lisbon because we are close to the sea, but in Spain, temperatures are really high for April. And I mean, even a larger wave on the background is the biodiversity collapse. So the world is changing and changing in different waves. And sometimes we keep our noses down, and we are working over the short term, trying to solve daily problems in our companies and management problems, and we forget that over the long term we have really serious issues coming. Now, why are these issues coming? And don't want to bother you with too much data, but I think these two graphs synthesize a lot of the things that are the worries that we have as a society, as a whole. First, that is that it looks at the current economic model is coming to an exhaustion. We are extracting more raw material and natural resources at the rate that is above the rate of regenerating these same materials, and we're not getting any more productive by doing that. So in a sense, kind of we're entering in a paradox that we keep extracting materials, natural resources, and the economy doesn't grow more or doesn't evolve more because of that. And at the same time, and I think this is an issue that I will also come back in later on, is this issue that it's not just the crisis, it's not just about the consumption of natural resources, it's also about inequality and growth. The world is becoming a more dangerous world because the equilibrium between the areas and the people and the countries that have high income and the others that have low income have becoming larger. So, for example, in your right-hand side, if you look at the graph, you see that there's the top people that have now you have kind of income per capita as your measure, that have really high income, just a few people, around 1% of the global people that we have. And then on the lower part, we have some people that are living on so-called emerging countries, the emerging economies, and they also capture a little bit of a slightly higher income. But in the middle, countries like the United States, Western Europe, they seem to be squeezed in a situation where they're not really growing, they're not really distributing anything, and the situation is becoming, we're talking about 90% of everything in these countries are people that are not progressing in their quality of life, in their income, and are, in a sense, they are in the same quartile of income as they were, let's say, 10 years, 20 years ago. So it's not just the things about how the natural resources are being extracted from the economy. It's also, and I think, about the social problems that inequality and a more unequal and a more difficult distribution of wealth in the economy is bringing us. So I think if we combine these two things, we have no option. We have to move to a sustainable economy, and by sustainable we mean both the eco and the social problems together, and we have to figure out how to do it. I mean, there's a lot of talks about it, but we don't really have a roadmap. We are trying to find out what could be the right way to get there. Now, the second issue that I was trying to bring here today, it's how do we look at sustainability? How do we define it, and how can we introduce it in a business world? Now, there's a lot of discussion about what is sustainability, and I think in the business world, we have to keep repeating what is the concept so that we don't see it as too much grounded on issues of greenhouse emissions or CO2 or whatever, and we see it as a whole and a more complex issue. But the original definition is tied to the need that we have to lower our consumptions of materials, of natural resources, of energy, of water, of air, of oxygen, whatever. So in the red line that you have in the graph, we have consumption as it is today, so really higher than it should. The blue line is the consumption that we could have if we were a more efficient economy. But even if we were a more efficient economy with very efficient companies, that blue line would still be growing and would still be, compromising resources to be used in the future. So the sustainability concept that we need to promote for the future is a concept that take us to a lowering of consumption. The green light, the green line there. So we have to be able to do the same or to do more with less. When I say do more with less, is maintaining companies and industries working, but with less energy, with less water, with less materials, with less efforts, and is quite a challenge on how to manage to get there. As you know, we have overall, let's say, international frameworks. The Agenda 2030 is perhaps the most famous one. Also, the Paris agreements that we know already they're not being completely filled, but it was, I think, a very interesting landmark in 2015 when in Paris these agreements were written. And we have European Green Deal. And, as a frame, I think each one of these would tell you different things, as how it is the direction of the development of industries in the future. But in the sense, what they say is that we cannot really stay as we are. We have to do something. We have to go into the direction of changing the way companies and industries and value chains have been working in order to be more sustainable. Okay, so that will be more or less. Let's see if this advances this. What I would say to you as the concept of sustainability, but having said that, sustainability and a lot of these discussions around how to get there, sometimes they stop on the notion of the net zero or the decarbonizing industry kind of discourse. In the sense, sustainability stops in the idea that if we consume less, if we don't emit the greenhouse gases, or if we find some ways to compensate that, somehow that will be enough. That will be exactly what I have to do, and it's already quite difficult to do that. But if we look closer, because we came from a past where we already have been spending more resources above the rate of regeneration, now there's new discussions about how can we go beyond the sustainability concept and go towards regeneration, restorative companies, regenerative companies that they don't only have a sustainability objective, but they have a positive impact towards a regenerative economy objective, which means that they don't just consume natural resources, human resources, energy, but they actually give it back to nature what they consume in order to have a positive impact. And I think the figure here is very interesting because a lot of the things that we talk about in industry are still on the red area. The degenerating industries, the conventional, the so-called green, if you want, kind of strategies approach. But we need to be more ambitious, and of course, we can divide this in terms of a short and medium and long term. I mean, I would say sustainable, maybe it's a medium term to long term objective, but I mean, our real long term objective is beyond that. It's being regenerative, and of course, the short term objective is being green. It's being friendly to the environment, or at least not to damage the environment so much. So here you are. You have short term, medium term, and long term. I think the things that we discuss more often for industry on the short term is regulation. We will come back to this in the future. For example, green buildings or companies adopting the normatives for energy management or for environmental management, the ISO kind of normative things. And some companies are already doing that. I think that it's not compulsory yet, but there's a lot of regulations coming. I am thinking, for example, think about banking and other sectors where regulation has been really tough in the past few years. And I think in industry is becoming, also in transports, regulation is the short-term driver for this transition for sustainability. But on a medium term, I think there will be more. There will be limits, market reach limits. There will be things like, for example, CO2 limits for companies. There will be legislation for compulsory use of renewable energies. Circular economy is already, I think, becoming on a medium term something that will become, inevitable. But again, looking at the long term, if we really want to look at the regenerative kind of economy that bring us a healthy planet, a healthy living, I think we have to develop new tools, and we have to pass these short-term, medium-term kind of strategies and go into systemic level change. We have to have new tools, holistic visions for how to do this. And of course, we have to start now. When I say,
we can divide this in short, medium, and long term. It doesn't mean that we work on the short term without working on long term. We work on short term, medium, and long term simultaneously. But of course, the longer term goals would be the ones that are more difficult to achieve and therefore would be achieved later on in the process. For business people, I think the discussion, the interesting discussion has also been around how do I change not just the CO2 and the greenhouse emissions kind of talk, but how do I change the governance and the way that the business are defining themselves as social businesses in a sense. And you know, the US Business Roundtable, it's quite often cited. The World Economic Forum, the Great Reset Forum is also quite often cited as you know, as a frame for you to think about. But basically, what they're saying is that we have to get out of this definition of business as being shareholder value driven, where you know profit matters above everything else. No, to be honest, I think we at business schools sometimes we are the guilty ones for having for so long having this shareholder value framework in our minds, but we are changing to a more shared value kind of business frame, where you know we have to begin to take into account that it's not just costs and financial costs and financial receipts that we have to take into account, but also social and environmental impacts, you know, both positive and negative. So in a sense, we're starting to blend business, environment, and society into one thing. And over the long term, you know, in your right-hand side, we have to really come to terms with this idea that businesses they do not exist just for the reason of making a profit. Of course, they have to make a profit, but they have to have they have to be more aware of what are their contribution to broader societal challenges. They cannot just continue the way they are without looking at what is happening around the business. So in a sense, it's a full integration of business, society, and environment that we will want in the future. Okay, and let's not forget, and I said I would be coming to that, you know, a lot of the discussion I see in industry often is about carbon emissions and greenhouse emissions. And of course, there is a lot of other things, you know, the health, the work conditions related to how work is organized, inequality that we just discussing, toxic environments. It's also about water. It's also about energy, not just about carbon emissions. It's also about biodiversity, etc., etc. So, in one word, I would say that what is taking us so long to realize that we're facing a very complex problem that cannot be faced with the same tools and the same mindsets that we were using in the past, the kind of a linear thinking that if we understand what is the input of the problem, we change the input, then therefore the output would be better. And we have to take into account that all these problems are interrelated to each other. And if I try to solve, for example, a problem in carbon emissions without looking at what is the water problem or what is the energy problem, I will end up by not solving anything. So I have to have a more complex approach where when I say that I want to work on sustainability transitions, I want to work on solving different kinds of problems at the same time and not just one by one. Now, the third issue that I wanted to talk with you here today, it's about sustainability in value chains. Okay, it's maybe this is more close to what you are used to think about and to talk about in your day-by-day lives. But first of all, value chain, let me just very rapidly say, what do I think of value chain? And when you say value chain, what do we mean? We mean a series of activities that produce value, and the value chain often is organized as a smiling curve because the activities that produce higher value are the activities that are on the edges of the curve. And often this is what explains why some countries and some regions they are able to produce more economic value than others, because sometimes it's in these regions that these activities are located, and in other regions are the activities that are somehow not producing so much value added. But the ones that I see producing more value, it's the edges. For example, the branding, the marketing at the right edge, or the R&D and the design stages at the beginning, or the left hand. So, for example, if you are working in an industry and you don't own your own brand, you're probably having difficulties in capturing your own value, the value that you generate, or most of the value you generate, you're giving it up to others, the others that are up downstream on your value chain. This is not a very awkward concept. I'm sure you have heard it before. But now, to become a sustainable organization within a value chain, that implies that that we work together. If I work only on my let's say internal, external conditions of my own company, of my own organization, without looking at what is the supply chain, let's say the upstream activities of the value chain, or the commercial chain, which is the downstream activities, then it will be a bit difficult, because if at one point of the value chain I can start thinking about generating other kinds of value, ecological or social value, but other points of the value chain are not interested in doing it. So in a sense that, again, will lead nowhere, and we'll be losing time. So when I say sustainable value chains, implicitly what I'm saying is that it is the whole value chain that I'm interested in changing, and not just particular points in the value chain. Okay, and when I say, and when I look at these discussions about what value chains are doing in terms of sustainability, again, as I said in the beginning, I see a lot of the discussion centered around the greenhouse gas emissions, and often around what is scope 1, scope 2. I don't know if you're familiar with this kind of discussions framed by the greenhouse gas protocol, but a lot of consultancy going around there saying, I mean, we have to see what is scope 3. If it is scope 3, it's not for you. It's for those companies which are downstream or upstream. You don't have to worry, because if you do your own work and if you focus on where you are, which is scope 1 and scope 2, scope 1 being the emissions that you do in your own operations, and scope 2, the emissions that you do from using energy and heat or cooling operations, but are on the scope of your own operations. So in a sense, you don't have to worry about the others. If everyone was doing scope 1 and scope 2, the scope 3 would be solved, because scope 3 is the scope 1 and scope 2 of others, downstream or upstream. But okay, this is interesting, but it's not the whole story. It's interesting because it can reveal that the situation in terms of sustainability in value chain is much different according to the sector or the value chain that you are thinking about. For example, in some sectors, the whole discussion about sustainability is upstream. So in a sense, these companies where the discussion is upstream, let's say scope 3 upstream, and then what these companies have to do is that they have to be very tough in their procurement policies in terms of working with their suppliers, so that they can together they can become more more sustainable. But again, in other sectors, let's say for example, electronics that you have here, you know, the blue areas here on the graphs is about sectors where sustainability is embedded in their product. So it's not a lot about what is going on scope 3, but it's on scope 1 and scope 2. So these industries, they have real difficult problems in coming to terms on how they will face sustainability on their own. Of course, they can work upstream and downstream, but I mean, it's not the same problem as other industries have. So there is a lot of discussion around this. I think it's interesting. It's not the whole discussion, but it's something we should talk about. I brought you a couple of examples. I will go a little bit faster on this, not to give you any details, but just to show you that this is really not new. There are companies working on this. You know, Nike is a very famous company, but Nike had a serious image problem in the value chain, international value chain, some years ago. So Nike started to work sustainability in the value chain earlier than others, and it's already quite advanced. For Nike, the main issues are about fossil fuel consumption, as I think for many other industries also, water, chemicals, waste. It's about plastic pollution and labor rights, but it's also about low wages. And I think that is the story that you probably heard about. You know, the story where Indonesian workers, there was a program that revealed that factories that were working for Nike paid as little as 14 cents an hour to workers in Indonesia. And there were also allegations of abuse of Vietnamese women. You know, a lot of problems for the international image of Nike. Nike started to be so worried about that now has a very comprehensive program for sustainability. You can see it on the sustainability reports that they have online. But also, you know, other sectors, the cocoa value chain, you know, they have been examined for slavery and for child labor or for low wages and for other things. So again, let me remind you that now the discussion about sustainability has to include gas house emissions and energy and all these things, but it's not just about that. It's also about social problems, you know, and in some issues, some industries, these problems are very serious. Okay. Now, coming to an end so that we can discuss a little bit of the things, I would suggest things that we study here also at the university, which is what can we do? What can we do when we talk about sustainability? What are the factors, the things that we should be working on to improve our sustainability in value chains? And now, as I said, you know, coming back to what I said a while ago, one thing that we could do, and some companies are exactly doing that, and I think it's a good starting point. It's not an end in itself. Let's be honest with this. It's to adopt the normatives for sustainability management, energy management, social responsibility, the ISO family of management normatives. Okay, norms are just a starting point. Okay, they're not easy to implement. You know, people in industry, you know, here in Portugal, I think in the most industry, they know that quite well. They're not easy to adopt and to implement, but it's often a useful starting point to start to learn about what it is environmental management or what is social responsibility management and things like that. So one of the critical factors is the way you adopt these norms and the way you use it. Another thing, of course, is the reduction of materials. Okay, for example, in the injection plastic mold, you know, why not choosing recyclable polymers that can be recycled when you no longer need them, instead of using, you know, the same old plastics that they used to use. Now, one thing I want to call your attention is that, again, and I think that's perhaps more at the universities, there is a lot of the discussion about if we discuss too much about the reduction of materials, we are discussing reduction of unsustainability stuff, which is not really sustainability, if you know what I mean. So if we insist a lot in discussing how to reduce unsustainability, we become convincing that we are already doing the right thing when we are not. We don't want just to reduce unsustainability. What we want is really to become sustainable, which is a different thing, okay? So reduction of materials, it's a nice thing to have. And again, it's factor number 2. So it's one of the first things that you should be worried about, but it's just a passage point. I mean, it's not something as an end in itself, okay? Then it's process efficiency, of course. Switch to new production process if you can, because obviously that implies investment and having money to do that. Adopt energy and heat technologies. There's a lot of technologies out there that can help you to be more friendly in terms of energy, in terms of how you treat heat and cooling. There's also industrial carbon capture technologies being used. Of course, they're quite expensive, but process efficiency is about how you start combining these things and how you start using these things. Again, an example for plastic injection molds that if you could recycle the excessive plastic that are generating during the injection molding plastics. And I think many companies in the Marinha Grande here in particular are already doing that. But you have to go beyond just the recycling of the plastic that are wasting during the molding process, but and adopt other things, okay, more advanced things on your process. Then over the medium term, as we saw before, it's also about circularity. Try to begin to work on these logics of recycle the materials at the end of their life cycles or at particular points at the value chain and feed back the materials again. Of course, it takes a long time. So I'm saying circular economy is something to think about for the medium to long term. It depends on the increasing share of recycled materials that you can use, but also are you able to actually map everything on your value chain? The value chain mapping with the actors, with the materials, with the flows of materials and products and energies. And are you able to prioritize local suppliers? Because, circularity is very nice if it works inside a region, let's say a fairly small region where everybody's close to everybody, but it's not so easy to make it work if you are in different continents. Okay, now the fifth thing, even more difficult, it's going to product design, introducing eco design. And again, in the plastic injection molds industry, that this is something they are masters now. They have been using CAD systems and the connection between design for manufacturing, the DFM rules, and the way they use that. It's already established in industry, but of course now it's more, because you have not just to be worried about the manufacturing design rules, but the manufacturing and the design for sustainability rules again. And of course, what I see here is that there are a lot of difficulties in getting access to data, or at least to consistent material data on this. So beware. I don't like to say bad things about consultants, but there are a lot of consultancy there saying they can help you. They can help you on that, but you have to be sure that they have the right data, and updated data to really help you. For example, doing a life cycle assessment It's not an easy thing to do. It's a heavy exercise. You need to have access to a lot of raw material, raw data in order to do that. And you might want to get some help on doing that. So you might really want to have consultants with you that can help you and how to do that. And of course, it's also having the chance on while you design the product, you can stimulate CO2 costs, savings, shapings, material reductions, how you treat yields, how you treat the structure of the materials. I think that designers are already also thinking about that. How can they help you to think the design of products from the beginning in order to make them more easy to separate in terms of their parts, in terms of their recycling, in terms of their repairability, durability, etc., etc. So again, beware, because there are designers and designers. There are designers that are already aware of this and are already working on this, and other designers that are not aware of this. So you have to choose the ones that are going into the direction of the future. Example in plastic injection molding, I know I am revealing my ignorance of this industry, but I know Rui Tocha knows that I am an admirer of the plastic injection molding industry. So I brought you a few images. They work a lot on these things like lightweighting and topology variants and things like that at the simulation stage using design for sustainability rules, in the sense that they can do the same kind of product, but using less materials, using less plastics, by working out what is the topology, the right topology for doing that. And finally, the sixth factor that I would advise is that please don't just work on the reduction and sustainability things that we were talking about. Not just on the management normatives, not just on the design aspects, not just on energy efficiency or process efficiency, materials efficiency, whatever. Not just on efficiency, okay? In a sense, you have to come to around these issues of the social aspects of the business itself. Sustainability, it's also about this. It's about, for example, if your company is able to have a purpose, not just an objective. How do you combine economic, social, and environmental objectives all together? How is your company working not just for the shareholders, but for the stakeholders and for society in general? Can you really define a purpose by combining all this? Another thing is about relationships. Often companies only have very intense relationships with their suppliers and their customers, but they forget that they live on an ecosystem where relationships are not just about who wins or who loses or the win-win kind of thing, but it's about mutual development over time of trust and things that they can do together to improve the quality of life. And governance, there's a lot of things we could say about this. Who participates in decision making? Are you really introducing participatory decision making process? How is your gender balance on your companies, or how is your gender balance on your board of the company? Or what is, different kinds of balances that you want to have. Also about transparency and reporting beyond accounting and finance. There is a lot of greenwashing, ESG washing, a lot of these things. These things are just are the things that sustainability needs beyond the efficiency kind of reasoning that we have been talking about. And that's it. That's what I was proposed to do here today, to talk a little bit about challenges and the need for sustainability, the concept of sustainability, and the critical factors for sustainability. So I don't know how we are on time, but maybe I can.
We are Very good
Ah,
and
good.
on time. So very nice presentation. You presented a lot of key points to be discussed. So I will open now the opportunity for the participants present their questions. I have some also, but not maybe some of them are not questions, are some reflections also. But now I open to the participants who wants to take the opportunity to raise some questions. It's always difficult to start. Laura from Latvia, can you? We have Carlos Seabra from Simolds. Welcome, my friend. Can you?
Hi there, everyone.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a really nice presentation. I also
Thank you.
enjoy hearing it, but unfortunately, the reality that we are facing every day, it's really very different. And it's very different on our supply chain. And okay, we are dealing every day with our dear customers that although in their presentations also they talk a lot about sustainability and that we have all to be okay aware of that, then the real requirements are most of the times going against it because they want lower prices, they want quicker things that put us in situations where we have to spend more energy, where we have to try to look for products which are cheaper that maybe are not produced with the right in the right conditions worldwide. We all have our gimmicks and our gadgets that are produced in countries that we know that are not really taking care about those preoccupations that you were referring. But then we all like to have them at the lowest possible price while we are customers also. So this is all very difficult to uh, I was yesterday, okay, not in Portugal, I was in France, where our customer, we were proposing something to use some recycled material. But the fact is that nowadays there are some recycled material that is more expensive than virgin material because the process of treating the recycled plastic um, to be in good conditions to be used in visible parts or in it's really more expensive. So they say, no, no, no. So if it is more expensive, don't use it. Go to the virgin material. So, but you are alerting us and putting us a lot of pressure for sustainability. Okay, but we have to make money. So money talks yet a lot. I loved your circles there with business and society and environment, but then business is the bigger ball, is the bigger circle today yet. And this is okay. In Simols, we are also having we are, for instance, using now trying to put solar panels in all our facilities. It will be a huge. Right now, it's like 11,300 solar panels, last generation, to produce a lot of energy because we are heavy consumers of energy. But this is a little drop, okay, if we all do that. But you were talking, I was thinking, well, I have to go back to this little village in the middle of Portugal where people live without transports, without anything. They produce their chickens, they produce their vegetables, they eat very correctly. They don't go to doctors because they don't get ill, and they are making exercise while doing their own agriculture every day, from sunset to sunrise, sunrise to sunset. And that's really sustainable, but very few dare to do that. And it would be so easy because it still exists. It still exists here, like 20 kilometers far from where I am right now. some little villages where the people they are all very old people, and they don't need anything. They don't have an iPhone. They don't have a telephone. They don't. And I don't think society is really ready for that. But I really enjoyed it, and we are trying to do most of the things that you are referring there. We at Simol's group are trying to do something.
Thank
And
you.
a lot has to do with also the recycling in our own companies to pass this to our people at their homes, because we have more than 6,000 people in our companies, and if each one just puts a bottle of the water in the correct trash can to be recyclable, it's much better. But it's hard. It was just a comment. I have no questions. Just
Thank you, Carlos.
okay.
Was
You're
really,
welcome.
really,
So
really
think
tough.
about going to grow your chickens and your pig next year.
We have always to balance between the goals and the
Yeah,
reality. You know,
exactly.
this is the topic. Manuel, I don't know if you want to say something, and this
Yeah.
was not the question, but
Well, just very briefly, I think I completely agree. You know, but it's not just that the reality is different, but it is a collective objective, a collective goal. So if you have this goal, but you feel that your clients don't have it yet, or they're not making it easy for you, then it becomes really difficult, because as I try to say, I know it's the time is limited for such complex concepts sometimes, but we are dealing with a systemic change. What does that mean? That means that we have to change all at the same time to a new kind of society. You know, a society that is less dependent on energy and different lifestyles. And of course, when I was listening to you, Carlos, I was thinking about aspects of this transition. It's about yourself. It's about the people.
Yeah.
And if they don't change their mindsets, so I know it's the clients that you have. You probably cannot change your clients overnight. It takes time, but that will be the kind of clients that in the future you don't want.
Well,
No,
but they have
they have the power.
fantastic they have fantastic presentations, and we had that in our congress last some weeks ago. Everyone and most of our customers were there. They have beautiful presentations on how they are worried with that. But then when it comes to the real life, it's very different. So, and then our lifestyle, and I think about, for
Yeah.
instance, the jeans. The nowadays jeans, they should be sustainable because we should use them until they are with holes and all that, but no, the companies are producing jeans, and they spend tons of waters to make them old. It's not
Yes,
because we are using them for 20 years. It's that we are buying them in the store that they look like they have 50 years old, and they spend tons of water and energy. And before one gene could be built in a couple of minutes, now it takes hours because it has to look old.
Yeah.
We are all crazy. And we
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
buying that. And I didn't buy those. But I'm always saying, people, when you buy those trousers, you don't know how many liters of water was spent to make them look old like they are, and this is completely crazy. But that's the world where we are living.
Yeah, Carlos, but it's also about leadership, because
Yeah.
I've seen in
And
your
this is for the designers, because designers are the guilties for that, because they are putting that on the customer.
Yeah, well, they're part of this, but I've seen in other sectors, not in your sector, a kind of dissonance between what the CEO, the leader, is saying, with these exactly as you say, very beautiful presentations with a very beautiful speech about sustainability, and then it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen
Yeah.
because it's not an authentic leadership, and the new generation of people, the younger people, they are not putting up with that anymore. They don't want to work. Many of my students, they don't want to work on large corporations anymore because
Tell
they're
them not to
fed
buy
up.
those jeans then.
They don't. They don't. Well, at least some that they don't. They
Well,
don't.
may I just
Go
just
ahead.
to say
Yeah.
something to try to because it's important to leave here some message complementary, and I just want to stress what Carlos emphasized from the point of view of industry. We have been this week working with our ministers and the Secretary of States because the political leadership for supporting the reindustrialization in Europe uh, should begin. We need really policy leadership, and we don't have it in Europe right now. And Carlos said something. You said that we are living in a systematic change, but we are living also in a global and complex business arena with inequalities between Europe and I would say Asia in that sense. I believe that we are facing challenges from the point of view of financing and new business models that we need. And so we are pushing from one side these ideas to sustain the world, to create a world sustainable, but in the policies, we are pushing the companies to do it by themselves. And we are forgetting something is we need intelligent policies to prevent dumping, to prevent, I don't know if it is the right word, but dominant business positions from the OEMs and first tiers. They are killing the SMEs, which are the main partners of the industry. And we also need to try to have intelligence and on the way some countries are coming to Europe to destroying our industry. I believe I heard that now the Siberian train is coming again from Asia to Europe, bringing products without any control, and are killing the companies, the industrial companies in Germany, in all the countries in Europe. And so companies are working on the investments to bring this clean manufacturing. They are investing on training and requalification the persons. They are looking for new ways to make business, but from the point of view of the political side, they are very much alone because they don't have support. We are pushing our industry to an open field without no rules. And so we cannot have sustainability with no rules. So I think this is important to give in this webinar because it will be recorded. I don't know if the European Commission will listen that, but it's very important these comments from Carlos that are living and dealing with these inequalities every day. So I don't know if you want to comment, but
And just to stress a little thing, you're saying that so companies and large companies, they are every day getting larger. If you take Stellantis, for instance, so it's a big player. Before it, we had Fiat, we had Opel, we had Holden, we had so now we have one, Stellantis. So it's a gigantic company. And this is happening not only in Europe, it's happening in USA. So worldwide, we have these conglomerates that are getting bigger and bigger. So and we are a little needle that sometimes try to punch, but it's really hard. And okay. And this train you are talking, it's the new, what they call it, the new Silk Route that is coming back to Europe. So if we are able to put products from Asia in Europe in 12 days or 18 days that would take by boat 1 month or 2 months, okay, it's another test that we have to try to overcome because it will be harder for us again.
and China has continue right now to give a prime for exportation on 40%. So the products are made there without different conditions from Europe, and even though they bring their products with a financial support on 40%, so we
It's
cannot
to compensate the 25 that US is putting in there for entering. So like that, they are already gaining.
Yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
it's. I think it has been. I don't know if someone has any more question. Loic, I know you are there. You are the manager of this consortium. Have you something to say to us?
Like in
He
the
left.
middle. Yes, he left.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know if.
If I may
Yes.
ask one question,
Yes.
yes, you discussed very many and good important points, but one of the things that I always think about is that how we can like motivate the SMEs to become more sustainable when, as you already mentioned, that they don't have really support from the government. See, for example, if you want to do like biological farming, you have so many directives following on your back, so many regulations and things that you need to follow. But in the end, when your product, for example, arrives in the market, the price comparing with any other import, for example, like in Latvia, any other imported products like tomatoes that comes from Portugal, from Spain, from everywhere else, the prices are uncomparable. Like it's so, let's say, it's not efficient, for example, for a local company to be to grow biological, for example, food, if in the end in the prices in the shop are so different. And like how to motivate them, how to give, like, you know, this this support, because yes, we can speak a lot about that the consumers are voting with their how to say, with their money. They vote, for example, in what kind of world they want to live in, either in more sustainable, or they want to let's say, yeah, to just to pay less for the products that they want. But what else there can be done? Okay, we can push the policies, we could let's say work on that. We can put out advertisements for society, like, yes, we need to be more sustainable, we need to support local grown foods or other businesses. But what else, for example, in your opinion, there can be done?
For me, well, I tend to agree that regulation is a big part of it, and I tend also to agree that European and the member states in Europe could do a lot more, but I don't think that is the turning point. You know, you are looking for short-term gains on a transition that will take us 50 years to get there, or even more. So it's, as Laura is saying, it's very difficult to motivate a company to do something that the results would be 50 years from now. Yes, it is. But let's try, for example, to work on how people think about society and themselves first, to see if they can hold on for the transition. You know, transitions are a process where we cannot have the lux of dismantling everything that there is. Otherwise, there would be no genes, either old or new. Okay, but at the same time, we have to create space for the new ways of producing to come up. Okay, that takes a lot of time, and it's a huge exercise. I sympathize with your argument that there would be. I don't know how familiar you are with the economic theory, but there was an old theory called the infant protection. You know what that is? It's an economic theory, I think the 1950s or something like that, that advocated that new industries should be protected while they are young, while they are in their infant stage. So there would be they would have different regulations. They would have easier access to funds or things like that. So I'm kind of sympathetic that that could be a way to go. Okay, protect the infant, protect them while they're young. When I say they, the ones that are really on the sustainability path, and we need to protect them while they do this difficult initial transition, because we still have the others around. We still have the others that compete on price, that have dumping, that have social dumping practices as well, and it's a very unfair. So to the extent that that already exists, I don't think governments, particularly in Portugal, that only use the structural fund instruments can actually do anything. To be honest, if you only work with structural funds, with the resilience in this kind of that's not the tool you need. That's only a funding tool. You need regulations that work. You need inspections, inspectors to go to the place and see what's happening. You need all of that. And at the moment, I agree, maybe governments at regional, national levels, they don't have that yet. But they are trying to understand or are already understanding that they should. Maybe they should go that way.
The one thing actually I wanted to add, I absolutely agree with what you say. It's just nice to bring up some discussion. But going back to the topic of the genes and the world we live in and how we look at let's say the global world, we all experience like this Greta trend, which showed us how one voice for the young people can show, for example, the spotlight on the cause of the bigger industries. And I think this is what, for example, we are lacking now. We are lacking these influencers in sustainability that shows that it's sexy, it's trendy. This is what we need to go for, and that the old it's just not like you said with your students, that it's not going to happen. It's not what we need, and that's why it's also nice, let's say, also for me to jump in here and be part of, let's say, this new movement, and to try to also involve more and more people in it. And that's why I love that we have all these like hackathons and activities for young entrepreneurs that have this possibility to learn and start, like you said, start from the zero and already implement their companies with a green approach from the very first steps. I've really liked your presentation. Thank you so much for.
Thank you.
If I can,
Yes,
I'd
of
like to
course.
share another thing. Some weeks ago, I was participating on a meeting, very colloquial meeting, with some designers from the industry too. And you don't, well, maybe you do. Those working on the automotive and on the tooling business will understand perfectly what I'm saying. You don't imagine the thousands of pieces that are produced in an injection machine, which are rejected daily because there is a little defect on the part that the common mortal will not even notice it. They will see, no one sees this defect. And even the specialists, like I'm a specialist on the plastic business and tooling business, I would perfectly buy this car with this little defect that no one sees. But the our industry, they are obsessed for the perfection that once you take the car out of the stand and you go to the street 3 kilometers down the road, you have much bigger defects than the one that they are caring for, and they are rejecting thousands and thousands of parts because this painted part has a little scratch there on an area that no one is seeing, and they are throwing this away daily. Why are these happening? And I was
Amazing.
saying, couldn't you just say, okay, we are not putting those away, we are producing those cars, and you could say to the people, okay, these cars or this product, it can be a washing machine or whatever, has a little defect that maybe you don't even see it. And instead of throwing away a lot of pieces, because this happens on the plastic, but it can happen also on a metal part, on a a decoration somewhere, in a product, and the society should be prepared for, okay, I'll buy it. It has a defect, not function. The motor is okay, the security is okay, but the cosmetic, eventually there is somewhere a defect that I don't even am able to detect. This should be sold, and this should be in the market. And I'm sure it would be very successful because it was, I don't know, uh, 300 euros less than this other one. I don't know. I'm just putting a figure. But no, no one cares about it. And every day, if we talk about a bumper for a car, you know, uh, it's very expensive. It's like 5 kilos of plastic material, ink that was used to paint the part, a lot of time consumed. And in the end, oh, there is a little scratch there, throw away. It's thrown away.
Yeah.
And
But
everybody
yeah.
was agreeing with me, the specialists would say, yeah, you are right, this should be something to do. Even in France, there is a company selling for the électroménager, so for the consumer appliances, there is a company selling products with these little defects, and apparently they are very, very successful. But this could be transversal to other, and you should inform that in university too for the students.
Yeah.
Because it's a good thing for the ones that will be maybe in the positions in some years to make those decisions and say, no, we will not throw this away. We'll use it because I'm waiting this day that in a car or it will be a trend that the car is not really polished and really nice, like the trousers for the jeans. Oh, it's a car, very trend, very sustainable because it has some some defects, and those defects will be a fashion in the future.
Let me just say
Or
Rui, that
without ink, without being
I-
painted. Why don't we use the parts without being painted, for instance?
I am really at the limit of my time because I have a class
I'm
now
sorry.
with my students.
No,
Actually, we're finalizing our hackathon for circular economy. So there's really something that I would like to share with you someday if you are interested on how to organize these accelerators that help people to change their way of thinking. But just before I go, let me just say, Carlos, that I don't truly believe that these industries that do what you have just said, that they have a future. They will be dismantled.
They are the future, right? Oh, okay. They are the.
They are now. They are here now.
Yeah.
They have no future. They will. New companies doing other kinds of cars will arise. They are already there. They are already there. So
let's do it, starting from Portugal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's difficult. It's more difficult to transform a company that has so many things wrong than actually build another one. Okay, so what happens is that you have two processes: one of dismantling the existing, and the other of rebuilding everything. Okay, and so this is what we call transitions. Okay, it's not transforming a company on one thing into another. Is actually phasing out the wrong way of doing things and phasing in the right way of doing. Sorry, I don't have really just because I have a class now, but in any other day that you want, I'll be very glad to share my time with you. I was really happy to be invited by Rui and by the industry. I really like your work and really like CMOL's extraordinary company that we have. But unfortunately, I have to go.
Thank you very much to you all. So this webinar should be sustainable. We need to close. So thank you very much for you all. And take attention on the next webinar from GEMSTONE. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Manuel.
Bye.